Bienvenidos, señoras y señores, to another episode of the Bleed Los Podcast. Estamos en vivo. This episode of the Bleed Los Podcast is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during games. So you think you know your stuff? Get in on our 200,000 mega contest and pick up 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prices and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and get in on the action. Bet online. The game starts here. Bienvenidos, señoras y señores. We got the Sangrones on the line. Dennis Gonzalez, how are you, my friend? Hola, familia. Oh, Dennis is already coming in with the Tommy Edman love. I think you're going to like this episode, Dennis. We are joined by our regulars, of course. Canelo is here. Canelo, you got a big fight this weekend. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Everyone was talking about that at work today, and I was like, guys, I'm not fighting this week. What are you talking about?"
And then we got Carlos the Gambler is here, and Babyface is in the background. So let's get right into it, guys. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. So let's start first with the Cubs. Any new people that are on here, the way this works is if you want your comment read, if you want to move to the front of the line, you can always give us super chats, and the super chats will move you to that front of the line. If you're just stumbling across us, make sure that you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. Make sure you're following us on our social media. Also, make sure you follow Dodgers Beat. Dodgers Beat has a whole bunch of articles. They're dropping stuff throughout the day. Canelo, is there anything you want to plug before we get going?
Well, I know Steve Webb's been posting a bunch of articles the past couple days. I know Doom Sal, who obviously watches the show, he contributes as well, especially with Yamamoto back. I got a couple analysis pieces. I wrote pretty much a summary of my recent episode with the Baseball Isn't Boring podcast, going over kind of how the Dodgers have gone throughout this entire season. So if you want to listen to that and read that, that'll be awesome. But yeah, we got stuff coming out every day, and there's only like 16 games left of the regular season, so we're gonna start writing stuff up for gearing up for the postseason and this potential division crown.
And for you gambling addicts, for those of you in fantasy football leagues, go ahead and tell the rest of your buddies you can stop watching this game. This game is over. So have them join us on the live, and let's talk about more important things like the Doyers. All right. So
real quick, Carlos, are you on any fantasy league? He won his baseball one, so he's a champion. We got a champion in the room.
That's right. The gambler hit it again, man. I won my fantasy baseball league with a bunch
it's
of
over
nobodies.
Already?
Mine's over. Yep.
Oh. Well, I won fantasy football last year in my league, and that's the only fantasy I do. I don't know how the hell you do fantasy baseball, dude.
It's tough.
That's too much. That's too much of a commitment, man. It
is.
I can't handle that. Denny Cortez is joining us. All right, and Simeon is here. Okay, let's get into this Cubs series. So the Doyers lose 2 out of 3 to the Cachorros. They very easily could have won 2 out of 3 if they didn't have that meltdown in game 2. I want to go with the positive person because I know we all want positivity right now. So Carlos the Gambler, what were the positives that you took out of that Cachorro series?
Well, I know we're going to bring it up later on, but the positives, Tommy Edman. Tommy Edman had, let's see where he's at. He went 6 for 13 with 4 home runs and 6 RBIs in the series. Now, remember, he is coming from the Central, so he's played the. I'm sure he's played the Cubs a lot. So I don't know if that that factored in, but yeah, he was a stud. The other thing was the 4 home runs in yesterday's first inning. That was impressive. I was at the game, and Ohtani's 118.1 off the bat. That was okay. I was impressed. That ball didn't leave. I mean, you saw the whole flight of the ball because it was so flat. You know,
You know what? You sound like my father-in-law. He always, when Ohtani, he goes, "Ese no hace nada." Why can't you guys just give the unicorn credit?
Yeah, I am. I'm coming around. So yeah, that was impressive. That was like a cannon. And then it was nice to see Edman. What's that? 2 games in a row with 2 home runs. That's impressive. Before the game started, I was talking to my son. And I'm like, hey, you know what? You know what makes this lineup really good? The 6 and 7. Smith and Muncy batting 6 and 7. If those guys can just do half of what they're capable of doing, we're going to be hard to beat. And sure enough, they hit home runs back to back in the first inning. So those were the positives. The other one, Yamamoto. We said that if he comes back and he looks anything close to what he looked like before he got injured, it's going to be a good postseason run, in my opinion. 4 innings, 8 strikeouts in 59 pitches. I thought he outdueled Imanaga. Unfortunately, we lost that game because my stats that I do have is we were outscored 24-17, but 6 were unearned runs. We should have won two of the games in that series. Game 2. The errors. We can't have that. That was like little league play, And so, but overall, they were just a bunch of positives. And I think that banana in the tailpipe. I think it's slipping out of the tailpipe, Juan.
All right, you beat me to it. I was going to say, for those of you who don't know what the banana in the tailpipe is, my friend Carlos the Gambler just gave you an example of falling for the banana in the tailpipe, especially when it comes into Tommy Edman. I love how you guys, Steven Nelson's Tommy Tater's nickname, you guys are all falling for the banana on the tailpipe on Tommy Edman. I know we have a whole segment coming up about how he is the difference maker. He's the number 5 hitter. He's going to do it all. But it fascinates me that you guys so easily fall for the banana in the tailpipe. Canelo, what did you see in that Cachorro series?
Yeah, I think entering the series, am I surprised that the Dodgers lost 2-3? I'm actually not, because even in my, series preview article for Dodgers Beat, I wrote in there saying, this is not a Cubs team. Don't look at their, regular season record like as a whole. Go ahead and look at like the past 10, 15 games coming into the series. They were 10-5 over the last 15. They are pretty much fighting every single game is playoff baseball for them, because every single game means that much to their playoff hopes. So they came in here, they needed to win a series, and they kind of just took care of business. I looked at how the rotation was kind of lining up, and I saw Bobby Miller's name and Walker Buehler's name, and I said, flip a fucking coin. Hopefully we win one of those games, and they did, thankfully. Barely. They barely won that series finale. But, the Dodgers offense, they looked pretty good. Tommy Edman has, his 2 signature games. He has his signature moment with the go-ahead home run late in the series finale. Ohtani, steals another base, hits another home run, getting everly closer to that 50-50. And then Yamamoto, what can't you say? I had no idea what we were expecting. It really could have easily imploded on him, and he ended up striking out 8 guys in 4 innings. That was probably the best I've seen stuff-wise all season from Yamamoto. Because even his average fastball, I was very curious to see how well or how high we keep that velocity, and it was a career high 96 miles per hour the entire game, which he hasn't been a guy that would blow past that number all season. It was going from like 93 to 94. That Yankees start, he had around 94, 95. And then this start, that first inning, he was hitting like 97, 96 consistently, which was really encouraging. I was even saying in my brain, I said, was this guy ever really even hurt, or were they really just shadow banning his innings, making sure that he was rested for October? It's going to be really curious to see how his next start is, which is lining up to be against the Atlanta Braves, another team that is, fighting for their playoff lives right now. But I think the biggest negative of this whole series was just the defense, especially in that 8th inning. It didn't seem like any, beat reporter wanted to ask hard-hitting questions about defensive positioning, how that entire inning unfolded, because that inning essentially costed them the series, because even though the Dodgers still have a good, 4.5 game, 5 game lead right now, you want to win those games, and they ended up dropping that one and barely escaping with a win in the series finale. So, but I'm looking forward to the Brave series coming up, but it was kind of a disappointing series against the Cubs.
Babyface, you were covering the games at the stadium. Let's continue all this positivity. No pasa nada. Everything is fine. The Dodgers, like Dylan Hernandez just wrote in the LA Times, friend of the carne asada, get your tickets to the parade, ladies and gentlemen. Babyface, what did you see at Dodger Stadium?
Yeah, I mean, disappointing, right, that they lose 2 out of 3, but I do think they should have won 2 out of 3. And like Cody was saying, like, you saw Miller and Buehler starting. I would have thought they would have won the Buehler game. That would have been, the same thing happened with Buehler and Miller. They come out, giving up runs at the first inning. So, unfortunate that game, with all those errors, like you said, something that rare. I think it's rare. That's not going to happen every game, and it's very rare that they're going to give up 3 errors in one inning. So. Unfortunate, but I still feel positive coming out of it. Like you said, they battled back in that last game. The Cubs team is a hungry team. And I think, too, we've kind of said this a lot, that they play up to their competition. Probably they saw the Cubs, and they're coming in kind of hot, but you're not really thinking that much about the Cubs. So it was kind of one of those series where, like, they might lose a couple games in this series, and that's kind of what we saw. But I'm not like, I'm not thinking, no, they lost 2 out of 3. They shouldn't have lost 2 out of 3 and kind of feeling bad and just move on, go forward. They got the win last night. And I think they're fine, heading into Atlanta which is kind of strange. Again, another one of those 4-game wraparound series. So we'll see what happens in Atlanta. And I know Atlanta's fighting for that last final wild card spot right now. So should be a good series, return of Federico again to Atlanta. So we'll see how that goes for him.
All right. So you guys in the chat, feel free to come on in, because everybody on this show, with the exception of me, has fallen for the banana in the tailpipe. So it is time to do some reality check, everybody, because I know everybody is just spraying the potpourri all over the bathroom here, and we're just going to conveniently ignore. I'm seeing a lot of comments in the chat that, Bobby Miller and Buehler are saving arms. Guys, Bobby Miller and Buehler are not saving arms. They have to pitch because the Dodgers don't have any pitchers. And this, to me,
but you're coming in with these scenarios. Yes, they're forced to pitch. Starting next week, you get Glasnow, so you drop one of those guys. These guys aren't guys that you'll probably see in the postseason. So it's like, you're getting all amped up. The sky is falling because these guys are in the rotation that we're not going to see later on down the road, just like we saw a month back when they were losing, when they had no players.
Yeah, your positivity is much greater than mine, because to me, the greatest indicator of future injury is past injury. So I wish I had your level of positivity to think that Glasnow is going to be fine, that Yamamoto is going to be fine. Being that these are both guys that we've never seen them do this before. Like, we're already past Glasnow's innings limit. I know somebody in the chat put he's throwing 100 miles per hour in his bullpen. I get it. I get it. I mean, that's what you think is going to happen. All these guys are going to come back. I don't share your optimism. What I see in this Cubs series is something that could very easily happen in the playoffs, which is you have starters go 4 or 5 innings, and then you have to have your bullpen cover 4 or 5 innings and be perfect. And all it takes is for one pitcher to have a meltdown, and now you're behind the 8 ball. That's what I'm seeing, and I'm just curious as to, is anybody else in the chat seeing this? Am I the only one? Am I just this negative and this dark that I think it's a big problem? Michael Kopech. Everybody loves Kopech, right? Kopech has been the biggest steal since the trade deadline. Kopech has been fantastic. Kopech was human the other night. Kopech couldn't find the strike zone. Is there a possibility that could happen again in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we've been hammering on all year. dating back, to, March, April, May, when we were saying these starters aren't going deep into games. It's unfortunate that the Dodgers have to throw Bobby Miller and Walker Buehler out there every fifth day because, like Roger said, these guys are going to be afterthoughts in the postseason. I'm pretty much already under the assumption that they are not going to be on the postseason roster unless everything fails miserably, which I think if Glasnow even isn't 100%, I still think they're going to throw him out there. They're going to roll with it because having him out on the mound is better than having the other two alternative options. The bullpen being overworked, Kopech, throwing more and more innings. You can see that they're trying to be conservative, but in certain moments, he looked really human that night, getting the bases loaded. Honestly, the Dodgers escaped that by a mental mistake by the Cubs because they decided to do a double steal on the best catcher in baseball in terms of throwing runners out, ranking in the 100th percentile. I don't even think Will Smith put any effort in that throw. It was just that much of a dumb decision by Craig Counsell. But like Roger said,
by the way, Counsell didn't give him the green. Like
was them.
The guy stole the base on his own.
Oh, so they did a double
steal
steal
it on his own because he said he saw something in Kopech that timing-wise thought he could steal the base.
Okay, so that must have been a case of, from my playing days, runner at second base, as soon as he takes that foot on the gas, that runner at first is watching him, so he knows to go. So, yeah, I guess that's a mental mistake on the Cubs, and the Dodgers took advantage of it, and they squeezed away with a one-run win. But, yeah, I think you can be concerned about the rotation. The only starter that's been injured this year that I think is built up enough that has had enough time off is Yamamoto because unlike, Glasnow, Kershaw, they're fighting the clock as the season is less than 3 weeks from ending. Yamamoto had his time to rest, recover, do a couple rehab starts, throw a lot more bullpen sessions, and he looked fine. I'm very curious to see what his next start is because if he takes a step back, then I'll probably be getting closer to your camp, Juan. But yeah, I've been arguing for weeks that Bobby Miller and Buehler should stop what they're trying to do, especially Bobby Miller, because it seems like every start he goes out there, his mechanics are awful, and he's definitely playing hurt. He won't say it. He'll take the humble way out and say that it's on him. But the Dodgers are doing him the favors.
Further explain that, Canelo? Because the fact that he's limping after he releases the ball, I'm surprised that is not being talked about more, even though he says his knee is fine.
Yeah, nobody's talking about it. Multiple, Dodger fans, astute Dodger analysis fans, they can see the video. A lot of people are putting on social media side-by-side comparisons from his first 2 starts of the season to his last 3 or 4 starts. It's his left knee. That's the planting leg for him. And if that is hurt, that's going to make your command wildly inaccurate. And it's going to hurt when you throw the baseball, even with all that adrenaline. And the shoulder thing has been something that's ailed him for 2 seasons, and it's clearly still bothering him right now, where it's kind of changed his whole positioning from when he's throwing the ball, where, it's like what I said last live. He's probably taking the Cody Bellinger approach where he's trying to just find a way to pitch and pitch comfortably, and it's messing up his entire, system of mechanics. And if the Dodgers were in the luxury, they could just shut this guy down. But like you said, Juan, they have nobody right now. They have no other options. If they thought Justin Robleski would give them a better option, he would have stayed up already and he would be on the team. They believe that these two are still better than the options they have in the minor leagues. But you can argue with that, but you're hoping that in the next 3 weeks that the rotation in October doesn't include those guys.
I want to address something Ang said in the comments, which is that Yamamoto does not have a history injury, and that is accurate. But here is my question to you, Carlos the Gambler. Yamamoto in Japan, and you guys who are experts in Japan, correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I don't know what he did in the postseason in Japan. But for the most part, Yamamoto was pitching once a week. Come the playoffs, that's not going to happen. We can't have Yamamoto pitch once a week in the playoffs. So there's going to be days where he is going to have to pitch on short rest. And I don't know if you can build him up more. I know in the next start, they're going to bump him up to 75 pitches. Canelo has been saying this for the longest time. The Dodgers are up against the clock. So I don't know realistically how much you can build up Yamamoto for the playoffs. But if Yamamoto gives you 4 in one playoff start at the beginning of the week, and then you need him to go again at the end of the week, Carlos the Gambler, that is not concerning to you in the playoffs. This is unless, hey, again, you guys in the chat, you tell me, was Yamamoto in the playoffs pitching more than once a week?
I think that if anybody's going to pitch on short rest right now, the way it looks, it's going to be Flaherty. Flaherty's going to be the guy at short rest because he's the one that hasn't, been injured, and he's been solid pretty much since the Dodgers picked him up. I think I don't know, it's been a few weeks back when we were saying about X factors and we're saying Yamamoto's the X factor. Okay, well now that has changed. The X factor now is Glasnow. What does he look like when he comes back? If he looks, I know Cody had said it a couple of weeks ago. If he's at 80%, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because Buehler and Miller, we all know this. People in the chat know this. The Dodgers front office knows this. If Buehler or Miller are starting any game in the postseason, it's not good news. Then we're pretty screwed. Even Landon Knack looks. I would take him to start a game in the playoffs over Miller.
Absolutely.
And then Kershaw, we don't even know what he's going to look like next time he comes back. I mean, he hasn't looked good. I don't expect him to magically just come back from this injury and look better than he has. So, to me, it's coming down to, Flaherty, Yamamoto, and Glasnow. And then I think, and I wasn't kidding when I told you guys, I think Game 4 is a bullpen game. And I hope Game 1, 2, and 3, the bullpen's not exhausted. Yeah. And that's their best bet, because if you put Kershaw, a Buehler, or Miller, hey, we're in for it's going to end up being a bullpen game anyways. So why not salvage that game? So hopefully we're up 2-3 in the series before we throw these guys in. That's my take. I think Yamamoto is not going to be the short rest guy. I think it's going to be Flaherty.
Hey, Doom Sal, can you confirm for me? So that means that Yamamoto did pitch twice in 1 week in Japan in that series? Let me know, Doom Sal. Babyface, look, you're the optimist here. No concerns with Yamamoto in the postseason?
I mean, if you look at the first round starts, he wouldn't pitch. I would assume if he goes Game 1, he'd go Game 5. Game 1 starts on the 5th. Game 5 is on the, the 12th, I think. So I mean, he's gonna have enough rest if he were the one to go that route. So it's not going to be, in under a week. But like you said, I'd expect to, like Carlos saying, if they do a Game 4. Maybe Landon Knack gets that start, right? He gets the bulk innings, and then it's kind of bullpen after that. So, I mean, of course, injuries are a concern to the Dodgers, but they're a concern to every other team out there. If one of their guys goes down, you're in a bad spot. And like I said, this goes to every other team. If you want to look at your team in San Diego, Juan, the Padres, if Musgrove goes down, he's been injured this year too, right? That's a concern. Darvish was out for a long time. We don't know why he was out. Same thing. What if something happens again and he goes out? So every team faces the same concern. And for me, I'm going to be optimistic and thinking, you know what? I'm not going to worry about those injuries unless they actually happen. So that's that's my thinking. And, for now, I'm not going to worry about those injuries that aren't there.
Canelo, you want to add anything?
I mean, yeah, I agree with Roger. Every team's dealing with injuries right now, but when I look at the playoff outlook where I have to compare, the Dodgers to that team, it could just be because I'm in the area, but one team that just, for whatever reason, doesn't have this issue like the rest of the league is the Phillies. They've only used I think under 10 starters this year in terms of starting a game in their rotation. Their starters have been healthy all season, and their starters are primed for October. They could get through with just 3 starters in terms of Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, Ranger Suarez, and then they also have rookie Christopher Sanchez, young lefty that can do some damage, or maybe even put one of them in the bullpen. Dodgers don't have that luxury right now. They're just their big key word is hope. They're hoping that things go back to normal, and that's a recipe for it's not a recipe for success. And I think the Dodgers can make it work with how Roger said how the off days line up, and you hope something works. But I have to agree with Carlos. I feel like their game plan for at least one of those games, and maybe in the division series, or especially if they make it to the championship series or the World Series, there's going to be some bullpen games in there, and that's something that's been the Dodgers have done year in and year out. They did it in 2020 when they won the World Series, so I guess we'll see how it pans out this year. But hopefully we're not, singing the same song in this October we were singing last year.
Canelo, so what you're telling me is that the Dodgers this year will be the 2018 Milwaukee Brewers.
Unorthodox style pitching, yeah, probably. I don't think they're going to go as extreme as, starting. It's interesting you bring that up. I was watching highlights of that series the other day just randomly. They're not going to probably bring out Landon Knack and have him throw like what was it, like one batter or like two pitches and then remove him from the game. I don't think they're going to be that extreme, but you'll see an opener. You'll see maybe they bring in, a starter. If Miller or Bueller, if one of them's going to make the postseason roster, I would say it's probably Bueller. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do with their pitching. And, they have to get creative. The offense is fine. I think if they're going to have this pitching, their offense is going to need to score runs, but their offense is going to need to score runs if they want to win any games in the postseason at all. And that's been their Achilles heel, even worse than, the starting pitching. It seems like the past 3 seasons is that they just flat out just can't hit. Their top 3 don't hit. If that happens again this year, it doesn't really matter what the starting pitching does.
Thanks, Doom Sal, for confirming for me. Yamamoto pitched with 5 days rest in the Japan series. Matty Man, you're absolutely right. I think that's part of the equation, and that is, in the words of Juan Toribio, who's always said this, the stars need to be stars. So it is going to depend on those first 3 guys. They got to set the tone. Let's go into our next topic, which is right now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Canelo. The Phillies are the top seed in the National League. They have the best record.
Yeah, they are off today. The Dodgers are off today. They have just a 1-game lead, but they also have the tiebreaker. So if they finish with the same record, which is, I would say, likely, I think Fangraphs has them both on pace to finish with 96 wins. The Brewers right beneath them at 94, 95. It's going to be really tight for the playoff seeding this year. So pretty much I think every game to the last game of the season is going to be coming down to the wire. But, yep, it goes Phillies, Dodgers, Brewers, and then you got the wild card teams. I believe it's the D-backs, Padres, and then the New York Mets.
Yeah, the Metropolitans are only 2 games behind the top wild card spot. Carlos the Gambler, if that is the case, if the season ends like that, are the Dodgers better off in the 2 spot than they are if they're the top seed in the National League?
You know what? I don't like playing that like let's just stay at 2 and we're okay. You know what? Let's play the best teams. Let's show that we are the best team, and play whoever we have to play. If it's the Padres or the Diamondbacks, I don't care. I don't care over the past 2 seasons what's happened. We got to change that course of history, and by beating them. And this way, we'll shut those fans up and show them that Dodgers were able to beat these teams in the playoff. I mean, that's my take. I'll take any team. I know the Mets are probably the hottest team because right now we had said that the Padres and the Diamondbacks couldn't keep up that pace of play. They're playing. I think the Diamondbacks are 6-4 in the last 10. The Padres are playing 500 ball just like the Dodgers in the last 10 games. So you know what? I'll take them. I'll take the Brewers. I'll take the Mets, and I'll take the Phillies. I'll play anybody. We got to go the hard route, and we got to show people that we can beat these teams.
Canelo, you think they're better in the 2 or the 1?
I 100% agree with Carlos. I think they should be aiming for the 1 seed. Every year when I make this argument, you should arguably you should aim to be the best team in your division. You should aim to be the best team in your league as well. I know a lot of people complain about that week layoff. I 100% think the Dodgers of all teams definitely need that layoff. They cannot finish underneath the Phillies and the Brewers in terms of standing. So every game counts in that regard because they need that extra, like 5-6 day rest period. That way they can have their starters come back and be healthy. In terms of, if they have the number 1 seed and the season ends today, they're going to face the winner of the San Diego Padres, Arizona Diamondbacks wild card, which, in terms of ratings, I don't know how well that series is going to be perceived, but I'm going to be watching that series. As a baseball fan, that just sounds like a very good series. The Dodgers, I think it would be a big boost if they play one of those teams and they win. You're going to face a team that beat you in back-to-back, division series. You lose in 2022 to the Padres. You lose last season to the D-backs. I think the Dodgers would have a chip on their shoulder, and it would probably make for a good series because those two teams are going to want to stick it to the Dodgers again and move on to the championship series. But then I also agree with Carlos where I hate when people, try to pick, well, I think they should aim for the 2 seed because then they'll play a lesser team. Well, the Mets and the Brewers aren't really lesser teams. In terms of their record since August 1st, the Mets are right underneath the Dodgers at 23-15. The Brewers are right underneath them at 22-15. Dodgers have 24 wins in that span. So they're all playing really well. The Mets arguably are the hottest team in the entire second half. They've pretty much came from, underneath the Braves all season to overtaking the Braves and are realistically, they're only, I think, 7 games out from the Phillies and have 8 games remaining against them. So they're technically not even out of their division race, even though there's around 19, 18 games left. But yeah, I don't think it matters who they play. I think their biggest demon is themselves. The Dodgers' biggest obstacle is just, beating themselves and making sure that they show up for the moment, because I feel like every single postseason in the past, I would say 3 or 4 years, they've arguably been the best team. They've had the best team on paper. They just can't seem to show up when it matters, and they're going to need to do that. They're going to need to conquer those demons, and I think the best way to do that would be to play one of the 2 teams that kicked you out of the playoffs before.
Babyface, how confident are you that if they are in the 2 spot, they'll make it to the World Series?
Yeah, I mean, what these guys are saying, it doesn't really matter, right? You have to beat whoever's in your path, right? That's if they go on the 1 spot or 2. But for all we know, the Mets could actually move into that second wild card. They're playing good baseball, so they could knock out the D-backs, and all this is kind of, shuffled around. But, I've kind of said this before as well. I think that first round is kind of like Cody's saying, like they're demon. They get past that first round. To me, I believe they're going all the way. They just gotta get over that hurdle, that first round hurdle, and I think they're going all the way.
Yeah, I'm not even trying to say agree with that as a homer and we're all Dodger fans, but I really think their biggest Achilles heel is just getting past the first round. They need to get the monkey off their back and just say, "Hey, we did it," because they haven't won a playoff series with Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman on the same team. They can't do it with Ohtani on the team too.
Okay, so there's been a lot of talk, so I want to address these rumors here. We saw the Catman pitching in Oklahoma City, and Shohei has had his 5th bullpen. I'm already hearing it. I don't know how legitimate this is, that, Shohei may end up pitching in the postseason, and I know a lot of people are using the World Baseball Classic as an example. The fact that the Catman, who I didn't think we weren't going to see the Catman until 2025. The fact that the Catman is doing rehab starts, I think speaks more about the current state of the Dodgers pitching. There's just a lot of question marks. There's a lot that we just don't know, but God knows the gambler. If Shohei goes up to the Dodgers front office and says, I can do this, I can pitch, and you guys need me to pitch, throw me out there. Are you doing that?
Look, if Ohtani is ready, he feels good, and he checks all the boxes to pitch, I would say, why not? I almost want to say that there is no way that he would be worse than Miller and Buehler. I'll bet the house money on that one. So I would say if he checks all the boxes and they do everything, make sure that he's okay, fully recovered, let's do it. Make him your game 4 starter. Maybe low 3-4 innings, then bring the bullpen. I would totally go for it. And then as they win that series, next series, have him pitch 6-7 innings or whatever he goes. And then the World Series, it's all it's right there, man. He just pitches as much as he can. But yeah, I think if he checks all the boxes and he says he's healthy, I will agree with him that let him pitch all the way.
It's worth the gamble if he gets hurt.
But that's what I'm saying. If he's checking all the boxes, if they're doing all whatever protocol they have to do to make sure that he's throwing, his top speed is 98, whatever he's throwing, whatever pitches he's throwing, and then they give him that rest and he's not sore, everything is well, then why not? You're not risking injuries right there. I think he's checking the boxes. Now if he says, oh yeah, I'm kind of sore, I don't feel good. Yeah, of course not. Don't let him pitch. It's not worth it. But I'm saying if he's checking all the boxes that the Dodgers have, whatever it is that they have to check off to say that he's ready to pitch, then I say, hell yeah, pitch this guy. Let's go.
I don't think it'd be a starting situation for him. I think kind of what's been mentioned would be something like to close out maybe an NLCS, a World Series. You'd bring him in for an inning at a time. I think that's probably more likely of a scenario for him than actually like starting the game. But I mean, it remains to be. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if anybody read that Times article today, but they're saying he's going to be facing live batters before the end of the season. So it's technically feasible. I mean, like Carlos is saying, if he feels like he's ready, I mean, I think it's something very possible that we could see him closing out a game.
Canelo, come in here.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone hasn't read the article, Bill Plaschke from the LA Times put it out. If you've been following the page and listening to the game scrums with Dave Roberts for the past couple of months, the whole plan for Ohtani was that he was going to continue long tossing and throwing, check off that box. He was going to continue throwing his bullpens, and he's checked off that box. And now, since we're getting closer to the end of the season, his next step is to face live hitters like Roger said. And once he gets to that, essentially, he's ready to kind of get into some in-game action. Do I think the Dodgers are going to do it? No. If I had to put it on like a percentage point, I would say less than probably 10%, but I'm not going to say 0. And I'm not going to say, it's not going to happen at all because, if Ohtani really does go, and this is like, the LeBron effect, if he goes to the front office and says, hey, I'm ready, I can help this team. I can help this team with my arm and my bat. Let me do it. I don't think they would argue with him. I think it would be huge for, not even just for the Dodgers, but I think it would just be huge for baseball in general in terms of seeing this guy on the biggest stage, his first time in the postseason. I already said this before, during the winter. I said that first playoff game is probably going to be the most watched postseason game probably in a long time because of the international market reach. You had a fact that he could be available to, close a game out, close a series out. That just shoots up those numbers right up there. But I think if he's ready and he wants to face hitters, I'm confident, like Carlos said, that he could get the job done. I definitely trust him, with, the Tommy John recovery more than a couple of these arms that are in our bullpen and in the starting rotation. I just don't think the Dodgers are going to do all of it because of the risk. Even though, as Plaschke put it, if everything is pushing towards a World Series title and Ohtani gives you that best chance to close it out, why wouldn't you do it? And I think if that's the case, the Dodgers really see that this is, their year, this is their shot. If they're in a situation, they could throw him out there. And personally, I would like to see it because I don't want to wait another season, to see him be built up as a starter and then go into the October. I would like to see that now. Yeah, and I'm a little spoiled in that regard, but I want to see the unicorn perform in October, and I think that would be a really, storybook ending, but let's just get there first.
Yeah, I mean, we won't know what could happen. I mean, it could work out. It could be just like everybody in the chat is saying. It's the World Baseball Classic moment. He strikes out Trout, and it's a moment of legend. I'm also old enough to remember when Clayton Kershaw was brought into games that he had no business being in, and it didn't end well for the Dodgers. So We don't know if it happens, but the fact that I'm hearing these stories, like, I think poor Catman again is taking one for the team. You know, that the guy pitched while he was hurt to help the team. The fact that he's again, we won't know if they actually will use him, but it is indicative of the current state of the Dodgers.
But according to Roberts, he's not doing his rehab to come back. He's doing this is just his normal rehab. That way he's ready for next year. And when they asked him, will he be up? And he said, like, it's pretty much no. Like, I mean, unless something crazy happens, then we would see him. But this is part of just his normal rehab, as you know, him, and it's also himself pushing himself to prepare himself for the next season.
And then for Ohtani's case, the reason why I say it's not a 0% chance is because it seems really. One, I don't believe a single thing the Dodgers front office or Dave Roberts says. So if they say he's not going to pitch, honestly, I might as well just assume the opposite. He's probably pitching, but the plan was that after he faces live hitters, they're going to shut it down entirely, which doesn't really make sense when you're still trying to rehab. I think Ohtani gets a kick out of it with like his pregame routine where he goes to do long toss and pitching, and it probably helps him stay loose and focus more on the game. But I just feel like it would be weird if they stopped everything entirely. I bet you they're having these conversations behind the scenes. They have to be. They have to look to say, hey, his arm's looking really good. He looks really healthy. Could we? But I think the no-brain answer is going to be, you know, he's not going to come in this October, but I wouldn't rule it out. So fingers crossed.
You know what I find interesting about his bullpen sessions when he does them? He does them when there's people in the stadium already. I don't know. It just seems odd to me that this guy doesn't take batting practice. You know, he's never out there, you know, hitting, you know, when there's people in the stadium, whatever. So he's doing this when there's already people there. I don't know. It just seems interesting to me.
He's leaving a breadcrumb trail.
All right, so we're still talking about the unicorn. So it's currently 47 home runs, 48 stolen bases. There's a lot of people that feel 50-50 is definitely happening. Look, we got 2 weeks left in the season. You would think, well, he can hit 3 home runs in 2 weeks. He's definitely going to, I mean, he's stolen multiple bases in one game. He can go ahead and do that. At this point, Carlos the Gambler, is it going to happen in Atlanta? Is it going to happen on the road? Is it going to happen in Miami? If it happens in Miami, I feel like it's going to be a Tony Gwynn hitting 3,000 in Montreal, but something tells me all the Cubans in Miami are going to show up if Ohtani's close to getting 50-50. What do you think?
Is question one, is there a large Japanese population in Miami?
That I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if they travel. Down to Miami.
I think it's happening in Miami. I think not in Atlanta. I think it'll happen in Miami, probably first, second game. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen at home. It didn't line up. But, I mean, this guy's probably going to be – I think he'll finish like my prediction – I was doing some math, and he averages about 2 home runs a week is what his average is. So I think he'll get to like 52, 53. And I'm sure he'll get to like 53 stolen bases too. But yeah, it's happened in Miami. My money's in Miami. That's my prediction.
All right, Carlos the Gambler, he's calling it Miami. Canelo?
Yeah, I mean, you got 4 games in the wraparound series with the Braves, and then you have another 3 games in Miami. He is currently at 47-48, 47 home runs, 48 stolen bases. Fangraphs has him projected for 51-52. I definitely think he'll probably, because I feel like anytime he gets on base, I think he's gonna steal, and I think he's gonna get on base more than he is going to like hit a home run. It's hard to hit a home run, guys, even when you're Ohtani. And he's already set a career high in home runs, so you never know if he may plateau out for the rest of the season. But yeah, I think it's a lock. If the Dodgers win, 3 or 4 in Atlanta, Ohtani's going to be a big reason why. If the Dodgers win, like a series sweep in Miami, Ohtani's going to be a reason why. And like Carlos said, he's averaging around 2 home runs a week. I think he gets it done. I honestly think he ends up probably finishing the season closer to like 55-55. He may even finish with more stolen bases because I feel like every time he gets on base, I feel like he just wants to steal, and he's got the legs for it. So he may finish closer, to like 55 stolen bases.
Babyface, where is he doing it? Is he doing it on this road trip?
I think it happens on the road trip. I think he'll get to 50 stolen bases in Atlanta, and he'll get the 50th home run in Miami. And it'd be interesting if Cody said he'd get 55 home runs. I saw a thing today saying there's never been a player that's hit 55 home runs, exactly 55 home runs in the season. So if he does that, he'd be the first. There's been 54, 56, and never 55. So another milestone for him if he does that.
I'm putting in a bet right now.
It's interesting to me that everybody's picking me, but I don't know. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this, but you guys correct me if I'm wrong. The Bravos are fighting for their lives against the Metropolitans right now. I mean, is it too far-fetched to think that there is a good chance the Bravos aren't going to pitch to Shohei this weekend? Nobody else see that scenario?
I mean, they're gonna have to. They have. It's like pick your poison. The Dodgers' offense is fully healthy. Like, are you gonna take your chances with Betts and have him beat you, or are you gonna take your chances with Freddie Freeman in his homecoming and have him beat you? And I look at the potential matchups. The only pitcher that's gonna really give him fits is it's a really good matchup on Saturday. It's potential to be. It's listed on ESPN as Jack Flaherty versus Chris Sale. You're talking about the Dodgers' best pitcher right now against the likely National League Cy Young winner, who happens to be left-handed. So that will probably give Ohtani some fits. But, Charlie Morton, old man Charlie, he's out there. I hope the Dodgers tee off of him. But, Kyle Hendricks threw a really good game the other day. So I'm not sure. And Max Fried, who's kind of been up and down, who was also a lefty. But the Dodgers have shown a really good ability to hit lefties. And I think the Dodgers offense can tee off both those arms. So, like I said, the probably biggest game that's going to give Ohtani any fits is going to be that Sale game. But I think the Braves, you guys got to look at their lineup. I'm writing the series preview right now. Their lineup is awful. The Dodgers swept them in the May. They could sweep them in this 4-game series too.
Roy Estrada, my friend, look, you and I seem to be the only ones on the same page. Roy Estrada says, do you guys have concerns with the bullpen like Hudson, Phillips, hit and miss? Last night, Phillips finally went up 3 up and 3 down, bottom of the lineup. Roy, I've been saying this all episode that I am concerned on the fact that the starters don't give you length and that you are asking the bullpen to cover so many innings. Look, we haven't even talked about what happened with Anthony Banda. And I know that if the Dodgers end up losing in the playoffs, people are going to blame Anthony Banda for losing his mind and breaking his hand on throwing a temper tantrum because, like Canelo says, now they only have one lefty out of the bullpen. It's Vesia. I think the bullpen is going to be a huge concern. But like everyone says, if the stars don't hit, does it matter? I mean, if the other team scores 1 run, we lose. And I know everybody's like pretty much like excited that what we have is Glasnow, Yamamoto, and Flaherty, that even if you get 3 innings out of Yamamoto and Glasnow, it's better than what they had last year. Okay, that's true, but you still have a bullpen and you still got to hope that the offense does it. And I know a lot of you guys have faith in the fact that we have Teoscar Hernandez, who so far has seemed to be a very clutch person. This is going to be Shohei's first playoff, and maybe I hope he has a tremendous playoff. There's just a lot of question marks, and like Babyface said, there's a lot of teams in Major League Baseball that are going into the playoffs that have these question marks. But then Canelo says the Philadelphia Phillies and they're starting pitching, and then they got a guy named Kyle Schwarber who seems to destroy the Dodgers. So
I'll give you one for the Phillies, Ranger Suarez. He's been hurt. He's been one of their best pitchers as well. So every team has the same issues.
So Ranger Suarez,
I don't know. I just know the Phillies well because all my friends are Phillies fans. I'm over here. Guys, it's no competition. Their starting rotation and their entire starting staff is better than the Dodgers.
Canelo, why would you say something like that? Why would you say something like that?
Because the Dodgers.
No, it's true. I agree with Cody. I think the Phillies
Carlos,
are.
What are you doing, man?
But wait. they're a complete team. And how many games are we behind? 1 game. So
Yeah,
we
they've
must
been
be
bad.
somewhat
They've
of a
been bad.
complete team. And you know what? Just so you guys were talking about Phillips, I forgot who it was. His ERA is 0.00 in his last 7 games, 0.64 in his last 15 games. So I don't know. I mean, I know he gives up a lot of hits, but somehow he gets out of it. So he's not pitching bad. The big question mark is Hudson. Hudson, I mean, he didn't get the rest that we were like hoping the Dodgers would give him. Give him some an IL stint so he can recover and get some rest. Banda was kind of like the Dodgers did that to him. He punched that wall because he kept being thrown in there. He kept being thrown in there, and he was giving up so many runs. And Roger and I were talking about that, and that's the poor guy, man. He felt like he let the team down, but realistically, the Dodgers kind of let him down and made him pitch way too much. And now we're stuck with just one lefty.
That wasn't the only outing that Banda's given up at least 1 or more runs, and it just seems like he's been like overworked by the team, and that's why when I don't see it as a huge loss, because I just look at the recency bias over here, especially as we get closer to October. I'm like, hey, they sacrificed Banda and Brusdar Gratterall's back. Like, you hope this guy is on the roster in the playoffs. So you have to sacrifice one to get one person back. I don't know who we're sacrificing when Glasnow is activated, potentially, next week?
Chris Frosaker, you bring up a good question. Was the Dodgers lineup healthy when they faced the Phillies? I know they weren't healthy in Philadelphia, but I think when the Phillies came to LA, the Dodgers lineup was healthy at that point, with the exception of Mookie, right?
For the most part, yeah. They didn't have. I don't think they had Muncy or Edman yet, so
they were still missing.
Exactly.
I think Freddie was in the lineup, but they were still missing, Muncy. They were still missing Edman. But I don't think the Phillies and the Dodgers met, at full strength together. So I'm rooting for that to be an NLCS matchup.
All right, let's talk about this Tommy Edman thing, because I know you guys firmly believe that he is the X factor, that he is a difference maker. Explain to me, Carlos, why Tommy Edman is going to be the unspoken hero of the Dodgers postseason that we just did not see coming.
I mean, the one thing that he has that we haven't had on the Dodger team in a long time is a switch hitter. So he's able to play against lefties and righties. If he's hot, we're going to keep him in. So he has demonstrated. I mean, and I want to clear something up, because I know we had a conversation and I said DFA Edman. Wait a minute.
Hey, you told on yourself.
No,
nobody remembers this stuff, Carlos.
Yeah, Roger reminds me. Roger,
no, but I don't think he said that on the live, did he? Wasn't that,
no, it wasn't on the live.
Chat?
You told on yourself, bro. You told on yourself.
The reason that came up was because we were saying, who are they going to keep? They're going to keep Taylor or Hernandez, and we're like, oh, they're going to DFA Edman. That's how it came out. But you know what? The way it's looking, one of those two guys are going to be cut from the roster from the playoffs, I think. I don't think they're going to carry both Kike Hernandez or Chris Taylor. I don't think they can. I don't think they have the space for it. So it was in that context. It wasn't like I said this guy's not good, because he, I've always liked him. I like, he reminds me like a Brett Butler, just kind of like spark plug kind of player. And he's doing things that I think he wasn't expected to hit this many home runs with the Dodgers. His average is at 300. I mean, this guy is doing everything we asked him to do. I mean, center field, he looks solid. I mean, this is our starting center fielder for the entire playoffs. I don't even see him losing that spot. So, I mean, Kevin Kiermaier hasn't played in like a couple of weeks. I mean, is he still on the team? I don't even know.
He's there for vibes, Carlos. For vibes.
There you go. Yeah.
He
makes it
got sacrificed for this. I just want you to know that.
He didn't have
vibes.
True. He wasn't cool.
Yeah. So
even though his picture's still up in the Dodgers clubhouse.
Yeah, so Edman's doing everything and more than we expected him to do. I think, obviously, I don't think he'll keep up that pace, but he'll definitely get on that streak again at some point during the playoffs. And he's looking great. I think it's a great pickup. I know we had touched on Kopech too. Hey, Kopech is human. He was going to have an outing like that. We had mentioned before that his fault back in Chicago was he was wild, that he was going to walk batters, so it was inevitable for that to happen. I hopefully it's just one time thing, and then we can move on from that, and he can pitch like he's been pitching with the Dodgers. And then, so we've made some really good pickups since from the trade deadline. So Edman, that's one of the greatest steals the Dodgers did this season during the trade deadline.
Canelo, why is Edman so great, and why is he going to be a postseason hero who's going to live in Dodgers lore for forever?
I don't know if I'm going to go super homer on it, but, first reason why I like the Edman trade and just how he's been playing right now, the Dodgers absolutely won that 3-team trade. The Cardinals don't even have one of the players that was in that trade in Tommy Pham. They ended up DFAing him, and he's on the Royals right now. You get Kopech, you get Edman, and guys, don't even look at Miguel Vargas's pictures over there in the South Side. Don't even look at his stat line. Last I saw, he's hitting 110 since he joined the team. He got a black eye. He aged not having a good time. I kind of feel for Vargas. Not really. But I look at his stats. Statistically, he was one of the better defensive players to come over to the Dodgers in quite some time. However, right now this season, I don't know if it's a little bit of rust of, being out all regular season with, like an ankle injury and wrist surgery. In center field, he's got a 974 fielding percentage, which isn't really elite for someone of his caliber. And at shortstop, it's even worse at a 960. I think he'll get better. He had a couple defensive blunders in center field. I think he'll be fine. Career-wise, in center field, defense was one of his worst positions. He only had a 5 outs above average at center field compared to a 21 at second base and a 15 at shortstop. So I think it's still kind of like a work in progress for him, but it's miles better than what the Dodgers were currently dealing with, running out Andy Pages out there. They don't want to move Mookie Betts out there. When I look at his slash line since he joined the Dodgers, he's hitting 300 right now, but he is teeing off against left-handed pitching. He's got a 444, 429, and 889 slash line with a 256 WRC plus. That's just flat out elite. That weighted run created plus is like ballooned because of all the home runs he hit over the past 2 nights, but that's what he is. He's career-wise, he's been better against lefties and righties. The Dodgers are going to play him every day because of his versatility. I like Rojas starting every day at shortstop. They don't like starting Lux every day because he's not good against left-handed pitching. I don't know why they just don't platoon them at, second base. I think the ultimate God situation would be to just tell Mookie Betts to play half his games at second base. That way you can get Andy Pages in right field. They don't want to do that whatsoever. I don't know why. I think that would be the best plan moving forward. I think the next best plan would be putting Edman at second base on the days you don't want to bat Lux against a lefty, because when you look at some of the, postseason, teams, the Phillies come out, they have a couple left-handed starters in Suarez and Christopher Sanchez. The Braves, who are coming up this week, we're going to get a preview on that. They got Chris Sale going. You're going to need some guys that come, hit these lefties hard, and Edman has done that so far this season. He's also, in terms of home and away splits, he's hitting 298 at home, 304 on the road. The 4 home runs in 2 days. He's not a power hitter, but he has shown the ability to to hit the gaps. Like Carlos said, I like the ability that he is a switch hitter. I think that's big for the Dodgers lineup and balancing it out. And even when I was on our friends at Baseball Isn't Boring, their podcast, I kind of put him as my unsung potentially getting a big moment, because I think with him being more of a contact hitter, I think the Dodgers, if they revert away from that boom or bust mentality and get a key hit, like a single in a very big spot, is better than, hitting a deep fly ball that, flies at that, dies out at the warning track. And Edman, I think he's defensively, he can get you a web gem anywhere on the infield or the outfield. So that could come in a big spot in the postseason, even bigger than, a go ahead run or a go ahead hit. So I like it. I'm not going to go off of these 2 games because I think it'll start to even out, but I think Tommy Edman just really balances the bottom of the Dodgers lineup. And it's not a reason that since he was activated, Betts was activated, and Muncy were activated, that the Dodgers offense has started to click.
Babyface, bring us home on the Edman train.
So for all of us missing Jason Hayward, he has 3 hits and he's hitting 143 in his time in Houston. So really not much to miss there. But I mean, Edman, yeah, he just seems like that guy. He seems like when you look at all the teams that won the World Series, there's some guy, right? Maybe not. He's not the superstar. He's not the star. He's just that one guy that gets those big hits. I think Tommy Edman kind of fills that role. I mean, I don't know if you guys heard Cody's episode with Baseball Isn't Boring, but he mentioned this also. I guess the pick that when you think, oh, who's the guy that's going to come up a clutch, right? We all think of Teal, right? Teoscar's he's going to come up a clutch because he's done it all year. So I'm kind of expecting that as well. I expect him to get big hits, but like we said, I think Edman is that guy that he'll go up there, lefty or righty, and he can get that big hit at any moment in any game. So I think I kind of expect him to get those postseason hits. But this again all goes back to this team's got to hit in the postseason, right? So if if everybody's hitting, I expect those guys to get a couple big hits in the postseason.
Yeah, and I just hope he takes any bit of knowledge he got from playing from the Cardinals to bring it over to the Dodgers, because the Cardinals in the postseason, with their coaching, the players that they had on there, they didn't have a boom or bust offense. They just had a pesky, we'll battle on these at bats and we'll get blue pits. We'll take it. That's as big as a home run in our book. And I think the Dodgers have severely lacked that. Like if you ask the top three hitters, Freeman, he may not want a home run, but he wants a double. Betts probably wants a home run in a big spot. Ohtani probably wants a home run in the big spot. Edman, he just wants to put the ball in play. And I think that could be a big thing for the Dodgers moving forward. But we'll just see how it plays out.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this show, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank everybody for joining us. So now it comes the time. If we have any new people on the show, we'd like to give out an award at the end of the show called the Danny Duffy Award. The Danny Duffy Award is given out to the player or the person who catches the most unsuspecting strays of the night. So I know there were a lot of nominees. So now is your time. I'm going to give you guys a minute to put your nominees in the chat for the Danny Duffy Award. I know some people were mentioning Bobby Miller earlier. There's a lot of potential nominees. So we're going to start the clock now, guys. All right. There was one. Banda is a nominee. Banda, another. Okay. So we got Banda for right now is leading the nominations. Wow. Jason Hayward gets a nomination. Another nomination for the Danny Duffy Award. So we got Anthony Banda and Jason Hayward. Another vote for Hayward. Okay. So it's right now. Okay. Kermeyer. So we got Banda, Hayward, and Kermeyer. Pajes, Bobby Miller. Banda right now seems to be leading the nominations by one. So 30 more seconds, guys. Miguel Vargas. Bobby Miller is in there with a second. Dave Roberts gets a vote. 20 more seconds, guys, to get your nomination. Jose Offerman. Wow. Chris Forsaker, what are we doing there? Bueller is trash, so Bueller is a nominee there. So far, Banda is still leading it. So if he is the leader, wow, Tony coming in with Shohei. All right, last one, guys. Last call in there. Last vote. This is going to determine we may just have a winner. We may not need to go to a vote off. Right now, we have a leader by one. And I don't know if that counts, Simeon. You can't hurt me anyways, Simeon, because I'm a Raiders fan. All right. So that's it. We're going to call it the winner of the Danny Duffy Award tonight, ladies and gentlemen, Anthony Banda, for losing his mind and breaking his hand. And do we know, is there any chance that he's going to come back even for the postseason? Or is he done for the year?
Roberts said he should be back. So
they said it was a hairline fracture, so it's not like. But I don't know. That's BS, Roger. I don't believe a single thing, Roger. I don't believe it. That's like
I'm just passing along what the guy said.
Hey, is there a video of him punching the wall?
Well, he didn't say what he punched. Well, probably a wall, but shouldn't they put like a boxing bag or something like that, like in the trainer's room or something, right? You can go out.
Why can't they just do it old school like Pascual Perez and just get a bat and beat up the cooler, man? I mean, come on.
Break Bobby Miller's hand. Like,
Wow, there we go, Departed style. All right, so that's gonna do it, guys. Thanks for joining us again on the live. For any newbies that are coming across, please make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Not only do we have episodes of the show there, but we also have coverage from games, pre-game and post-game coverage, and then some one-off interviews. Make sure you guys are also following Dodgers Beat. There's a lot of articles, a lot of content on there. And most importantly, guys, help me root on Canelo on his big fight this weekend. Canelo, we're rooting hard for you. You look great. I know you've been training. So awesome. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to do it for this episode. This episode of the Bleed Lows podcast has been brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. Nos vemos, everybody.